That's right.
It's a military family problem. It's a mold problem, which is potentially fatal to children. And evidently, our leadership isn't doing much about it. And in fairness, I should tell you, this problem has spanned various administrations. But now is the time to do something about it, and I hope you will. I visited housing in New London and Groton, where mold problem has really presented a health problem to military families. And if you're not the right person, I hope you will tell us who the right person is.
Senator Richard Blumenthal erupted during a tense Pentagon hearing after questioning why military fellowship programs were stripped from universities like Yale University. What followed was a fiery clash over woke politics, patriotism, and the future of military education in America.
Thank you, Chairman. Secretary Tata, I want to ask you about the recent decision to remove military fellowships and PME programs from, that is, professional military education programs from Yale and a number of other institutions. I question whether these decisions were driven by actual national security criteria or by, very bluntly, political retaliation against universities that are perceived, I think wrongly, as ideologically disfavored. According to the Pentagon's own memo, partner institutions are supposed to be evaluated based on factors like intellectual freedom, national security relevance, and relationships to adversaries. As I'm sure you know, Yale has a nationally renowned national security program, the Jackson School. It has experts at the law school as well as elsewhere in the university. It conducts extensive defense-related research. It hosts ROTC programs, which are very widely attended, and it educates active duty service members and senior officers. So my question is, why was Yale removed from these programs? And I assume the same answer would apply to the other institutions.
Senator, thank you for that question and your interest in our professional military education. Certainly, all the schools that were adjusted from the current list of fellowships. We added new schools. We wanted to refresh. In particular, we were interested in schools that allowed freedom of speech on the campus and other types of intellectual freedom. And the realignment.
Yale provides freedom of speech and intellectual freedom?
Senator, for Yale and others, the Secretary chose to realign so that we could involve other schools that were more aligned with the patriotic values and the values that we seek to instill within.
It's more aligned with patriotic values than Yale. If you come to Yale and you talk to students and faculty, but also see the great tradition of Yale as volunteers for our military, its active duty participation now in educational programs, and ROTC, which has grown in magnitude. I really question whether that's a fair assessment and whether, in fact, it's based on preconceived, non-fact-based notions of an Ivy League school. What would you say?
Senator, I don't think it was based on any preconceived notion. The list of schools that we have now are all very much aligned with establishing strong professional development programs for professional military education and getting our senior leaders focused on our foundational principles, back to the constitutional principles upon which our great nation was founded, and that's the goal of the professional military education program.
I think that it's pretty clear these decisions were made based on the Secretary of Defense or some other official feeling that these universities are, quote unquote, woke which I think undermines our national security because it denies our service members the benefit of some of the best teachers, academicians, research, and frankly, veterans at these schools. Let me ask you about housing conditions of U.S. military installations. A comprehensive survey not long ago reported that 97% of service members and their families reported habitability issues with their military-provided home, like toxic mold and damage. The survey also found that half of all requests to address dangerous conditions reportedly went unresolved. I don't have to tell you that that pattern is unacceptable. Along with some of my colleagues on this panel, Senator Hirono, Senator Ernst, in a bipartisan way, led the Military Occupancy Living Defense Act, the MOLD Act, which requires strict health and safety standards, independent inspections, financial accountability for contractors in privatized housing to assure that military families are protected. Given that these problems have continued, what are you doing? What reforms have you undertaken?
Senator, thank you for your concern. I share your concern for military family housing. It's certainly something that is not under the personnel and readiness portfolio, but we have a seat at the table on the barracks task force, and we do not own facilities or military housing, but I'm very concerned about it. And I was just in Pacific last week, and we had mold in housing, and we talked about it with families. I held sessions with families and other folks, teachers and parents, and those that were living in housing, and it's a real concern. And so I support what it is that you are discussing, and I'm happy to talk to my colleague, the Undersecretary for Acquisition and Sustainment, that owns that portfolio.
Well, it's a health problem. It's a readiness problem.
That's right.
It's a military family problem. It's a mold problem, which is potentially fatal to children, and evidently our leadership isn't doing much about it. And in fairness, I should tell you, this problem has spanned various administrations. But now is the time to do something about it, and I hope you will. I visited housing in New London and Groton, where mold problem has really presented a health problem to military families. And if you're not the right person, I hope you will tell us who the right person is.
Senator, I'm the right person. I'm here before you. I'm the right person in representing the department. And I'll tell you, the Secretary made an announcement not too long ago. He's committing millions of dollars to remediation of mold across the force, across all the housing. And so, yes, I'm the right person because I'm sitting right here before you.
Well, let me just posit to you, we've now spent an acknowledged $29 billion on a war of choice. It is a war that this president said would not become a forever war. It seems like now a whatever war becoming a forever war, but it is consuming at least $1 billion a day. I suggest respectfully, some of that money should be devoted to military housing. It would be a fraction of that total, but it is vital to readiness and preparedness, not just morale, but the health of our troops and their families. And we know families serve along with our military men and women. And I could also suggest, by the way, that maybe instead of $1 billion for a ballroom, we could devote some money to military housing.
As I said, Senator, the Secretary has pledged money to remediation of mold throughout barracks and housing.
Thank you. My time has expired. Thank you for your...
Senator Richard Blumenthal opened the hearing with a direct challenge to Pentagon leadership over the decision to remove military fellowship and professional military education programs from institutions like Yale University. Blumenthal questioned whether the decision was truly based on national security concerns or if it was politically motivated retaliation against universities increasingly branded as woke in today's culture wars. From the beginning, the hearing carried a deeper tension about ideology, patriotism, and the future of military leadership training in America. The Pentagon official defended the move by saying the department wanted to refresh the list of participating schools and focus on institutions more aligned with patriotic values and freedom of speech. That phrase immediately became the center of the confrontation. Blumenthal pushed back forcefully, defending Yale's history of military service, national security research, ROTC participation, and defense-related education. His disbelief was clear when he asked whether the Pentagon was seriously suggesting that other schools were more patriotic than Yale. As the exchange intensified, the broader political divide surrounding higher education became impossible to ignore. Critics of elite universities often argue that campuses have become ideologically hostile to conservative viewpoints and traditional American values. Supporters of those universities, however, argue that institutions like Yale remain among the nation's strongest contributors to military leadership, diplomacy, law, intelligence, and public service. Blumenthal framed the Pentagon's decision as dangerous because, in his view, it denies service members access to some of the best educational and strategic minds in the country. The hearing then shifted sharply toward another issue affecting military readiness, the condition of military housing. Blumenthal cited alarming reports showing widespread mold, structural damage, and unresolved habitability problems affecting service members and their families. He argued that unsafe living conditions are not just a quality-of-life issue but a direct national security concern. Toxic mold exposure, especially for children, became one of the most emotional parts of the hearing as Blumenthal criticized leadership for failing to adequately address the problem despite years of complaints across multiple administrations. By the end of the hearing, Blumenthal connected both controversies under a larger theme: misplaced priorities. He contrasted the billions spent on overseas military operations with the ongoing struggles facing military families at home. His message was clear: America cannot claim to support the troops while ignoring unsafe housing and politicizing educational opportunities for future military leaders. Whether viewers agree with his argument or not, the hearing exposed growing frustration over how politics, culture wars, and defense policy are increasingly colliding inside Washington.